My name is Hannah Cole. I'm 25 years old, a digital creator living in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Last summer, after a week-long trip to Hawaii, I came back home expecting to collapse into my own bed. But the instant I stepped inside, I froze. My bedroom door now had a shiny new lock. Hanging from it was a glowing neon sign that read Livestream Studio. My things were shoved into a dusty shed out back. My dad didn't even glance up from his coffee. He just pointed toward the shed and muttered, "Stay there or get out of this house." I stood there, heart pounding, staring at the life I thought was mine, erased in seconds. So I packed my bags and left. 1 year later, my phone lit up with 60 missed calls from my mom and a single text message. "Where are you? What happened in that gap? Why were they reaching out now? Stay with me, and I'll tell you everything." 2 weeks before everything crumbled, I was on top of the world. My latest project as a content creator had wrapped, and I'd landed a $30,000 contract. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I could breathe, maybe even spoil myself and my parents with something unforgettable. I had always dreamed of taking them to Hawaii, just the three of us, to make up for the years I'd been too wrapped up in work to be there. So one evening, I sat them down at our dining table in Grand Rapids and laid it all out. "I'm booking a trip to Hawaii," I said, smiling at both of them. "Just us, flights, hotel, everything on me. What do you think?" My mom, Brenda, lit up, her eyes sparkling with joy. My dad, Robert, even cracked a rare grin across his usually stern face. It felt right, like maybe we were finally reconnecting. But then Mom's smile dimmed, and she glanced toward Dad. "It'd be wonderful if your brother could come too," she said, voice soft but steady. My stomach turned. My brother Shane was 28, a streamer who spent his days yelling into a mic for thousands of fans. He wasn't exactly broke, but he was always borrowing money, $8,000 of mine still unpaid. His wife Denise wasn't much better, constantly urging him to chase bigger deals while piling up credit card debt. I inhaled slowly, trying to keep my tone even. "Mom, I'm only covering you and Dad. Shane can pay his own way." Silence filled the room. Dad's grin vanished as he leaned forward, elbows on the table. "That's unfair," he said, voice sharp. "Your brother's working hard to build his career." "You've got the money, Hannah. Why can't you just help him?" I stared back at him, chest tightening. Help him? I'd been helping for years, covering internet bills, pitching in for groceries, even buying Shane's new streaming gear when he promised to pay me back. "Dad, he owes me $8,000, I shot back, voice rising. "I'm not a bank," Mom quickly cut in, hands fidgeting. "Hannah, family lifts each other up. Shane's trying to make it big. You know how rough it is out there?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. They were acting like I was the selfish one, like my hard-earned income was just there to bankroll Shane's dreams. Denise, quiet until now, finally chimed in. "You're doing well, Hannah," she said, her tone sweet but edged. "A trip for all of us would be a thoughtful gesture." A gesture. I clenched my fists beneath the table. Shane just sat there, scrolling on his phone, not even looking up. That's when it hit me. My parents weren't asking for help. They expected it, like it was my responsibility to prop up Shane's life while they applauded him. "Shane's 28, I said flatly, locking eyes with him. "If he wants to come, he can figure it out himself." Shane finally looked up, smirking. "Chill, Hannah. It's just a trip. Don't make it a big thing." A big thing? I wanted to scream. Instead, I shoved my chair back and stood. "It is a big thing when I'm the only one paying for everything," I snapped. Dad slammed his hand against the table, making the glasses rattle. "Enough," he barked. "If you're going to be stingy, maybe you shouldn't be planning family trips at all." Stingy? The word cut like a knife straight into me. I turned to Mom, praying she'd defend me. But she only stared at her hands, silent. That night, I booked the Hawaii trip for myself and my two closest friends, Corey Blake and Vance Ross. My parents could come if they paid their own way. But Shane and Denise? Absolutely not. As I hit confirm on the tickets, I felt a mix of relief and fury. I thought that was the end of it. But when I came back from that trip, I discovered just how far my family would go to put Shane above me. I stepped off the plane from Hawaii, drained but eager to collapse in my own bed. The cab dropped me at our house in Grand Rapids, and I hauled my suitcase up the driveway. Right away, something felt wrong. Shane's beat-up sedan sat next to Denise's shiny SUV parked exactly where my car usually went. I brushed it off, assuming they were just visiting. But as I pushed open the front door, my stomach sank. The living room was silent, no trace of my mom or dad. I walked down the hall toward my bedroom, ready to drop my bags and collapse. But the second I reached the door, I froze. A polished new lock gleamed where my old knob had been. Above it, a gaudy neon sign blinked Shane's Livestream studio in glaring blue. My pulse kicked up. I tried the handle, locked solid. My room, my sanctuary, was gone. I stormed out to the backyard where the shed slouched beneath a sagging tarp. Inside, my belongings were dumped into a corner. Books closed. My old laptop tossed on top. My favorite jacket wrinkled under a box of Shane's tangled cables. My hands trembled as I stared at the chaos. This wasn't just about a room. It felt like my entire life had been shoved aside to feed Shane's ego. I marched back inside, spotting Denise in the kitchen, sipping coffee as if nothing was wrong. "Denise, what's happening?" I demanded, my tone sharp. She looked up, barely startled, and set her mug down. "Oh, Hannah, you're back," she said, her voice far too casual. Shane needed a proper setup for his streams. You know how crucial his career is. Your room was the only space big enough. I blinked, struggling to take in her words. "My room?" I snapped, my voice climbing. "You dumped my stuff into the shed without even asking me?" Denise shrugged, unfazed. "We figured you wouldn't mind. You're hardly ever here anyway with all your work trips." Hardly here. I'd lived in that house my whole life, paying bills, keeping things afloat while Shane chased his online fame. "Where's Shane?" I shot back. Denise tilted her head toward the hall. I stormed to his room and pounded on the door. No reply. Behind it, I could hear the low hum of his streaming setup. Mics, lights, the whole production. He had turned my bedroom into his personal stage, and nobody thought to tell me. I went searching for my mom, hoping she'd explain this madness. I found her in the laundry room, folding towels like it was just any ordinary day. "Mom, why is my room Shane's studio now?" I asked, my voice breaking with anger. She hesitated, eyes sliding away. "Hannah, Shane's career is really taking off," she murmured. "He needed proper space to keep up with his sponsors. We thought you'd understand." Understand? My mind reeled. They had taken my room, my privacy, and tossed my belongings into a shed, all for Shane's so-called career. I tried one last time. "You didn't even ask me," I said, my voice cracking. Mom just sighed as if I were being dramatic. "It's just a room, Hannah. Families make sacrifices. Sacrifices." I'd been sacrificing for years, money, time, energy, while Shane coasted along on their support. Denise strolled in, catching the tail end of our exchange. "Shane's got a major deal on the horizon," she said, folding her arms. "This setup could make or break him." "You're doing fine, Hannah. Why stir up drama?" I stood in the kitchen, pulse racing, desperate for answers. The sting of seeing my room converted into Shane's studio was painful enough, but Denise brushing it off like I was unreasonable made my blood boil. I needed to know why my family thought this was okay. I found my dad, Robert, in the living room, flipping through his newspaper like nothing had happened. "Dad, we need to talk," I said, forcing my voice to stay steady despite the fire inside me. He lowered the paper, his eyes narrowing. "What's this about, Hannah?" he asked, as if he didn't already know. I steadied my breath. Why is my room Shane's studio? Why are my belongings in the shed? My words cut through the air like glass. Before Dad could speak, Mom appeared, her face tight. "Hannah, calm down," she said, her tone soft yet condescending. Calm down. My entire life had been overturned, and she wanted me to stay quiet. I ignored her and turned back to Dad. "You didn't even ask me," I spat, my fists clenching. "You just decided my room belonged to Shane now." Dad leaned back in his chair, arms crossing. "Your brother's career is important," he said coldly. "He's got sponsors relying on him. You've got your own work, Hannah. You don't need that room as much as he does." I couldn't believe my ears. My job, my income, Everything I contributed to this house, it meant nothing, because Shane's streaming dreams came first. Shane's career? I snapped. I've been paying bills here for years. What about me? Mom stepped forward, hands raised like she was trying to mediate. Hannah, we're family, she said gently. We make choices for the good of everyone. Shane's close to a big break. A big break. I'd heard that line 100 times, and every time Shane wasted his chance. Denise leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, a smug grin on her face. You're blowing this out of proportion, she said. Shane's under pressure. This studio could change everything for him. I whipped around to face her, my voice shaking. And what about me, Denise? Where am I supposed to sleep? She shrugged, dismissive. The shed's fine, it's just temporary. Temporary. My eyes flicked to Dad, waiting for him to say something. Anything that showed he cared. Instead, he stood, his face set like stone. You've got two options, Hannah, he said flatly. Stay in the shed or get out of this house. The words slammed into me like a punch. My own father siding with Shane, reducing my life to a dusty corner of the backyard. I turned to Mom, desperate for even the smallest sign of support. But she just stared at the floor, silent. Shane wasn't even there, probably streaming away, oblivious to the wreckage he'd caused. Years of being second place, pushed aside for his needs, pressed down on me all at once. You're serious? I whispered. Dad didn't budge. That's the deal, he said. Something inside me snapped. I wasn't about to beg for space in my own home. Fine, I said, my voice steady now. I'm done. I turned and walked out of the living room, my heart pounding but my mind crystal clear. They had chosen, and now I was choosing too. I went out to the shed to grab what I could carry. The air inside was stale, heavy with dust, and my belongings lay in a chaotic heap. Books bent. Clothes creased. My old sketchbooks buried beneath Shane's discarded gear. I grabbed a duffel bag and started stuffing it, my hands moving faster than my thoughts. As I shoved in my laptop and a handful of shirts, old memories surged back. Shane had always been the golden child. As kids, he got the shinier gifts, like a brand new bike, while I got a secondhand scooter. In high school, they paid for his private soccer lessons, but my art classes? Too expensive, they said. Even once I started working, my money went to household bills, while Shane's cash funneled into his streaming dreams. I zipped the duffel shut, my chest tight with resentment. I thought about the time he drained my savings for a gaming console, promising to repay me. He never did. And Mom always defended him, insisting he was just figuring life out. Dad would nod, proud of Shane's so-called ambition. Meanwhile, I was the dependable one, the one who kept things running. But it was never enough. They had chosen Shane over me again and again, and now they'd taken my room to prove it. Dragging the bag from the shed, I headed for my car. The house loomed behind me, silent. No one stopped me. No one even looked to see if I was okay. I tossed the bag in the back seat, my thoughts racing. I couldn't stay, not after they'd made it so clear I was disposable. Pulling out my phone, I texted Corey, my best friend since middle school. Can I crash at your place tonight? My fingers shook as I typed. His reply came instantly. Get over here. Doors open. Driving through Grand Rapids, I felt a strange mix of rage and relief. The streets were the same, but the life I knew was fading behind me. Corey's apartment was small and messy on the east side. Nothing fancy, but it felt safer than home. When I stepped inside, he was sprawled on the couch, an open pizza box in front of him. You good? He asked, sitting up, concern etched in his face. I dropped my bag and collapsed beside him, shaking my head. They gave Shane my room, I said, my voice low. Dad told me to sleep in the shed or leave. Corey's eyes widened, but he let me talk. I told him everything, how Denise brushed it off, how Mom stayed quiet, how Dad drew the line and left me with no choice. Saying it out loud made the betrayal sharper, cutting deeper than I'd expected. Corey leaned forward, his expression hard. That's messed up, Hannah, he said. You don't deserve that. His words were simple, but they hit me where I needed it most. For the first time that day, I felt understood. I didn't need to justify my anger. Corey just got it. He offered me his spare room, nothing more than a tiny space with an air mattress, but it was already more than my family had given me. That night, lying on the air mattress staring at the ceiling, it hit me. Leaving wasn't just about escaping the shed or Shane's studio. It was about breaking free from years of being overlooked, years of carrying a family that never valued me. I wasn't running away. I was finally choosing myself. For once, my needs came first, no matter how much it hurt. The next morning, I woke in Corey's apartment, the weight of yesterday pressing heavy on me. Staying there gave me time to breathe, but I knew it couldn't last forever. I needed my own place, my own future. Corey had been a lifeline from the start. Over cold pizza and coffee the next morning, he didn't press me to relive the blow-up with my family. Instead, he went straight to solutions. "You need a place," he said, opening his laptop. "Let's find you something solid." I nodded, grateful for his straightforwardness. That same morning, he rang up Vance, my other closest friend, who knew the Grand Rapids rental scene better than anyone. By midday, the three of us were scrolling listings, cutting down choices that fit my budget. We landed on a one-bedroom downtown, a small but bright spot with wide windows and rent at $200 a month. It wasn't extravagant, but it was mine. Vance drove me to the leasing office the next day, cracking jokes to keep things light. "This beats a shed any day," he smirked as we signed the papers. For the first time in days, I laughed, feeling a spark of hope. The move took all weekend. Corey lugged boxes, Vance hooked up my Wi-Fi, and I unpacked the handful of things I'd rescued from the shed. Each step felt like reclaiming a piece of who I was. With a place of my own, I threw myself into work. As a digital content creator, I'd always balanced projects, but living with my family had been constant interference. Shane's late-night streaming, Mom's endless excuses for him, Dad's demands for bill money. Now, in my quiet apartment, I could focus. I pitched fresh ideas to clients, landed collaborations with brands I'd only dreamed of before, and launched a side project, a video series about forging your own path. The freedom was electrifying. Within a month, my income doubled. One client even offered a long-term contract worth $50,000, enough to cover rent and build savings. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was thriving. Corey and Vance were my biggest cheerleaders, dropping by with takeout to toast every win. "You're killing it," Corey grinned one night, raising a glass of cheap wine. Vance chimed in, "Told you that house wasn't worth it." Their encouragement reminded me what real family was. People who lifted you, not pushed you aside. I built a steady routine. Mornings spent editing videos, afternoons in client meetings, evenings brainstorming fresh content. I joined a local co-working space, meeting other creators who swapped tips and shared ideas. My videos began gaining traction, thousands of views pouring in. Fans left comments about how my story gave them courage to take chances. It felt good, knowing my work mattered, that I was building something meaningful without my family's shadow looming. Doubt crept in sometimes, late nights where I wondered if I'd been too harsh, if maybe I should have fought harder to stay. But then I'd remember the shed, Dad's cold dismissal, Shane's silence without apology. I had made the right choice. My phone stayed quiet. No calls, no texts from Mom, Dad, Shane, or Denise. The silence cut, but it was freeing. It proved they didn't care enough to reach out. But it also meant I was free to move forward. By the end of that first month, I had saved enough for new furniture, a real desk, a proper bed, things that made the apartment feel like home. I wasn't wealthy, but I was steady. And that was more than I'd ever had under my parents' roof. Corey and Vance kept me grounded, always ready with a laugh or a reality check. They hadn't just helped me find a place, they helped me find myself. My new life was only beginning. Almost a year after I'd moved out, my phone buzzed with a notification that froze me. A text from Denise, the first word from anyone in my family since I left. "Hannah, we need to talk." "It's urgent," it read. My stomach twisted, but I ignored it, focusing on a client pitch. Then another message came. And another. By nightfall, my phone showed 60 missed calls from Mom, from Brenda, and a desperate voicemail. Something major had happened. I called Corey, my anchor through everything. "You won't believe this," I said, explaining the flood of messages. He suggested we meet at a coffee shop to figure it out. When I got there, Vance was waiting too. I put the voicemail on speaker. Mom's voice trembled, almost unrecognizable. "Hannah, please call me back. We're in trouble. Shane needs you." Those words hit like a slap. After all this time, they reached out, for Shane. I called her back, bracing myself. She answered instantly, frantic. "Thank God," she said, her voice shaking. "Shane's in serious trouble. He lost his biggest sponsorship deal." I stayed quiet, waiting. She continued, saying Shane had been gambling online, burning through thousands he didn't have. His sponsors found out, cut him off, and now he owed a debt so huge it was burying them. "We had to sell the house," she whispered, breaking. My grip tightened on the phone, my mind spinning. The house, my childhood home, the one I'd poured my money into, gone because of Shane's recklessness. A pang of loss shot through me, but no surprise. This was Shane all over, chasing quick wins, never caring about the fallout. "What do you want from me?" I asked, my voice flat. Mom hesitated before answering. "We need your help, Hannah. Money, maybe a place to stay." I almost laughed. After kicking me out, taking my room, and forgetting me for a year, now they expected me to save them. Before I could reply, Denise's voice chimed in. She'd been listening on speaker. "Hannah, please," she said, her usual smugness gone. "Shane's falling apart. We're family. You're doing so well now. Can't you help us?" Her words stung. Family. They hadn't treated me like family when they shoved me into the shed, when Dad sided with Shane. Now, with everything crumbling, they saw me as their safety net. I took a slow breath, steadying myself. "Denise, you don't get to call me family now," I said firmly. "You made your choices. Shane made his. I'm not fixing this mess." Silence hung heavy. Mom began to speak, her voice trembling, but I cut her off. "I carried this family for years. I'm done." I ended the call, my hand shaking, but my resolve steady. They didn't get to rewrite history just because they were desperate. Corey and Vance sat across from me, their faces a mix of shock and pride. "You did the right thing," Vance said, leaning back. Corey nodded. "They can't expect you to clean up their mistakes after what they did." Their words grounded me, reminding me I wasn't alone. I had built a life with people who valued me, not just what I provided. Later that week, word spread through a mutual friend. Shane's debts were in the tens of thousands. My parents had already sold the house to cover part of it, but they were still drowning. Shane hadn't streamed in months, his career in ruins. Denise was scrambling for work, her name tied to his downfall. For a moment, pity flickered, but it faded quickly. They created this disaster, not me. I had carved out my own path, and looking back, it was the hardest yet best choice I'd ever made. Leaving that house in Grand Rapids wasn't only about escaping Shane's chaos or my parents' betrayal. It was about realizing what I was capable of. Independence wasn't just paying bills. It was trusting myself to build a life that reflected who I was, not who they wanted me to be. Corey and Vance showed me what real support meant. When I was at my lowest, they didn't just offer a couch or a ride. They believed in me. They helped me find my apartment, reminded me I was worth more, and gave me strength when I doubted myself. Their friendship proved that chosen family can matter more than blood. I'll always be grateful. This journey wasn't easy. There were nights I second-guessed myself, wondering if I'd been too harsh, if maybe I could have patched things up with Mom, Dad, Shane, or Denise. But every time the thought crossed my mind, I remembered how they'd cast me aside, how Shane's fleeting dreams were worth more to them than my steady sacrifices. I finally understood. Some bridges aren't worth repairing. Standing up for myself meant walking away, and that became my strength. Now my life is my own. My work as a creator is flourishing. My apartment feels like a real home, and I'm surrounded by people who lift me instead of dragging me down. I've learned to protect my peace, to invest only in relationships that give as much as they take. If you're in the middle of something like this, remember, you're stronger than you believe. You don't have to stay in places that diminish you. I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever had to choose yourself over family? Share your story in the comments below.